Alright, alright. I had to go out today to the college, so I couldn't actually make live in the morning. So here I am in the evening. I just had my exam and the worst days of life. Okay, something's happening. Give me a second. Oh, sorry. Alright, let's get back. So I had a bad day. But anyways, I'm here back again to get work done. Right. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. So we were supposed to read, right? Have you done with the Airbnbs? Let's check our notes. Paul Graham says independent minded. So how to become independent minded? That's what we did. There it is. How to think for yourself. How to think for yourself. Independent minded. Okay, this is what we have done. Let's get to the next one. Early work. That's good. Let's see. Maybe it's about his work, not us. Alright. One of the biggest things holding people back from doing great work is fear of making something lame. And this fear is not an irrational one. Many great projects go through a stage early on where they don't seem very impressive, even to their creators. You have to push through this stage to reach great work that lies beyond. But many people don't. Most people don't even reach the stage of making something they are embarrassed by, let alone continue past it. They are too frightened to even start. Okay, why am I speaking so slow? Yeah, it's completely calm in here. Unlike the mornings, which are very loud, and I'm very tired. Maybe that's the reason. But anyways, let's get back, baby. So imagine if you could turn off the fear of making something lame. Imagine how much more we'd do. Is there any hope of turning it off? I think so. I think the habits at work here are not very deeply rooted. Making new things is itself a new thing for us as a species. It has always happened, but till the end of last few centuries, it happened so slowly that has to be invisible to individual humans. And since we didn't need customs for dealing with new ideas, we didn't develop any. We just don't have enough experience with early versions of ambitious projects to know how to respond to them. We judge them as we would judge more finished work and less ambitious project. True, very true. We don't have enough experience with early versions of ambitious projects because most of the people who are actually working on ambitious projects don't really show their early versions. They'll just polish it completely and then show it. They don't want to look ugly or lame, right? Like for example, my project that I'm doing right now, it's called as a contextful. It makes prompting easier for AI, and I've been adding every fucking feature till I release the version 1, which is completely wrong. I know that, but I couldn't just come out of it. I don't know how to do that, right? I just couldn't code the payment section before actually completing the whole MVP. And this MVP is funny, but this MVP I planned it to be completely functional, right? Every freaking feature to be functional. And as I started making features, like I started making one feature, and while I was making one, suddenly I get another idea and I had to make that feature again. And this happened like for cumulatively for 3 to 4 features, and this made me fucking weeks late to the date of what do I say, launch, right? and I didn't launch it yet. I don't have a date yet. But I know one thing, I've improved, and the product is more valuable than it was. And this is the only thing that's, that I got against what I know from reading these articles or gaining knowledge. Shipping faster, version 1 is always shared, and it's supposed to be validating your idea, right? But when it comes to validating idea, I've seen this. I actually validated my idea first and then went for building it. And how did I do that? Easy. People have been making prototypes of this thing, right? They started making prototypes, and I've also seen some people build it completely. A guy, right? And there are good reviews for that and good responses, and there is growth as well. And I thought that I could make it better, and the market is very huge, and this guy is just having about 10,000 users. Maybe I can capture another 10,000 users. His market is his, my market is mine. I can at least have a piece of pie, right? And that's what I thought, and I started coding it. I didn't know how to code it at first. It was a Chrome extension. I never did that before, so I had to learn how to build it and then build it. And now it's almost done, and suddenly I've got exams, so I could not actually complete whatever the finishing has to be done. So it's just postponing. All the launch dates are gone. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I'm doing it. At least I'm not wasting my time, right? And I really hope I get somewhere, right? I don't want to be a millionaire right now. I just want to, manage my own expenses. At least like about maybe freaking $100 a month. That's the revenue I want. $100 a month. Nothing more. $100 a month. I'll be happy. Very happy, actually. That's what my dad earns right now. So that's the break-even point. If I get $100 a month, I can stay in the business. I can keep building cool shit, right? If I have $100 a month as my revenue, that's all I need to keep doing this cool shit, instead of just giving up on this and going bankrupt or something like that. I just need $100. That's it. I can just code all day, whatever I love, do whatever I love, right? Then if I don't have $100, I have to do something which I don't like, or work on someone which I again don't like. So from projects to be alive, I need $100 a month, and that's the revenue target I have for this app. I don't need it to be 20k per month or 100k MRR. I don't care. Anyways, let's get back. Making new things is itself a new thing for us as a species. Okay, it's done right. We just don't have enough experience with early versions of ambitious projects to know how to respond to them. We judge them as we would judge with more finished work or less ambitious projects. We don't realize they are a special case, or at least most of us don't. One reason I'm confident we can do better is that it's already starting to happen. There are already a few places that are living in the future in this respect. Silicon Valley is one of them. An unknown person working on a strange sounding idea won't automatically be dismissed the way they would back home. True. In Silicon Valley, people have learned how dangerous that is. The right way to deal with new ideas is to treat them as a challenge to your imagination. Not to have lower standards, but to switch polarity entirely. From listening to the reasons of an idea won't work to trying to think the ways it could. I didn't get it. The right way to deal with new ideas is to treat them as a challenge of your imagination, not just to have lower standards, but to switch polarity entirely. from listening the reasons an idea won't work to trying to think of ways it could. So you should stop listing the reason. Oh my god, that's the thing that I got confused about. Listing. So instead of listing the reasons why the idea would fail, you should actually think of ways it could actually get succeeded, right? That's what I do when I meet people with new ideas. I've become quite good at it, and I've become quite good at it, and I have had a lot of experience being a partner at Y Combinator. Being a partner at Y Combinator makes being practically immersed in straight sounding ideas proposed by unknown people. Every 6 months, you get thousands of new ones thrown at you and have to sort through them. Knowing that in the world with a power law distribution of outcomes, it will be painfully obvious to miss the needle in the haystack. Optimism becomes urgent. But I'm hopeful I'm hopeful that with time, this kind of optimism can become widespread enough that it becomes social custom, not just a trick used by few specialists. It is, after all, an extremely lucrative trick, and those tend to spread quickly. Of course, inexperience is not only the reason people are too harsh on early versions of ambitious projects. They also do it to seem clever. And in a field where new ideas are risky, like startups, those who dismiss them are in fact more likely to be right, just not when their predictions are weighed by outcome. Inexperience is not only the reason people are too harsh on early versions of ambitious projects, they also don't seem to be to seem they also do it to seem clever. And in the field where new ideas are risky, like startups, those who dismiss them are in fact more likely to be right, just not when their predictions were weighted by outcome. But there is another more sinister reason people dismiss new ideas. If you try something ambitious, many people around you will hope, consciously or unconsciously, that you will fail. They worry that if you try something ambitious and succeed, it will put you above them, and in some countries, this is not just an individual failing but a part of the national culture. I should put this inside Twitter, it will blow up. This is such a thing. Let's do this. Okay, I need to find something good. Alright. Tech Twitter. Okay, this is fun. I wonder what people will think about it. Software engineering. Okay, I forgot to actually create a page here. Where is the freaking... Okay, here it is. This is early stage. Early stage of projects. Vicious and succeed, it will put you above them. And in some countries, this is just an individual failing. This is not just an individual failing, but a part of national culture. Alright. No people seeing that. Oh my gosh. Biographies of great entrepreneurs simplify AI and personal growth. Share practical lessons you could use and grow in life. The fuck? What the fuck is this? Seriously? Okay, YouTube is not like, so you didn't do it. Why should we follow you? I wouldn't claim that people in Silicon Valley overcome these impulses because they are morally better. The reason many people hope you'll succeed is that they hope to rise with you. For investors, this incentive is particularly explicit. They want you to succeed because they hope you'll make them rich in the process. That is so cool to understand. But many other people you meet can hope to benefit in some way from your success. At the very least, they'll be able to say when you're famous that they've known you since the way back. But even if Silicon Valley's encouraging attitude is rooted in self-interest, it has over time actually grown into a sort of benevolence, and encouraging startups have been practiced for so long that it has become a custom. Now it seems that that's what one does with startups. Maybe Silicon Valley is too optimistic. Maybe it's too easily founded by imposters. Many less optimistic journalists want to believe that. But the list of imposters that they cite are suspiciously short and plagued with asterisks. If you use revenue as a test, Silicon Valley's optimism seems better tuned than the rest of the world's, and because it works, it will spread. There's a lot more to new ideas than new startup ideas, of course. The fear of making something lame holds people back in every field. But Silicon Valley shows how quick customers can evolve to support new ideas, and that in turn proves that dismissing new ideas is not so deeply rooted in human nature that it can't be unlearned. Unfortunately, if you want to do new things, you'll face a force more powerful than other people's skepticism, your own skepticism. This is fucking so true. This is fucking so true. You too will judge your early work too harshly. How do you avoid that? This is a difficult problem because you don't want to completely eliminate your horror of making something lame. That's what steers you towards doing good work. You just want to turn it off temporarily, the way a painkiller temporarily turns off the pain. People have already discovered several techniques that work. Hardly mentions too in mathematician's apology, good work is not done by humble men. It is one of the first duties of a professor, for example, in any subject, to exaggerate a little both the importance of his subjects and his importance in it. If you overestimate the importance of what you are working on, that will compensate for your mistakenly harsh judgment in your initial results. But if you look at something that's 20% of the way to the goal worth 100 and conclude that it's 100% of the way to the goal worth 200, your estimate of expected value is correct even though both components are wrong. What did you just say? People have already discovered several techniques that work. Hardy mentions two in a mathematician's apology. Good work is not done by humble men. It is one of the first duties of a professor, for example, in any subject, to exaggerate a little both the importance of his subject and the importance of him in it. If you overestimate the importance of what you're working on, that will compensate for your mistakenly harsh judgment of your initial results. So, overestimate the value of what you're working on. So, overestimate the importance of what you're working on. That will compensate for you mistakenly being harsh on what you have done, right? The initial results. If you look at something like that's 20% of the way to the goal worth 100, conclude that it's 10% of the way to the goal worth 200. Your estimate is of this. So it's if you have done 20% of the work out of 100, like if you have done 20 rupees of work which is supposed to be 100, that means if you have done 10 rupees of work which is supposed to be 200, right? The former one is different from the latter, but which is better? Why? Your estimate of its expected value is correct even though both components are wrong. Okay, so the expected component estimate is right, but the components are wrong. I don't know what that means. It also helps, as Hardy suggests, to slightly be overconfident. I have noticed in many fields that the most successful people are slightly overconfident. On the face of it, it seems implausible. Surely it would be optimal to have exactly the right estimate of one's abilities. How could it be an advantage to be mistaken? Because this error compensates for other sources of error in the opposite direction. Being slightly overconfident armors you against both other people's skepticism and your own. Okay. That is something really cool to actually think of. I never thought that overconfidence could be good for anything. Look at this. And it makes sense somehow. It makes complete sense. Ignorance has a similar effect. It's safe to make a mistake of judging early as finished work if you're sufficiently lax judge of finished works. What is lax? If you are a sufficiently lax judge of finished work, what is lax? I never heard of this word in my life. Never, ever. Not sufficiently, yeah. Lax. Bro, your vocabulary is fucking insane. Anyways, ignorance has similar effect. It's safe to make the mistake of judging early work as finished work if you are a significantly lax judge of if you're a sufficiently lax judge of finished work, I doubt if it's possible to cultivate this kind of ignorance. But empirically, it's a real advantage, especially for the young. Another way to get through the lame phase of ambitious projects is to surround yourself with right people to create a eddy in the social headwind. This is so right. Surrounding yourself with the right people always works. Always. It's great for every fucking thing. There's nothing that could go wrong if you are surrounded with the right people. Right? Everything is a plus thing. Everything is plus. Your work will be good, your fucking relationships will be good, and your mindset will be good. You'll have peace and whatnot. And you will be growing with an exponential rate. Alright. But it's not enough to collect people who are always encouraging. You'd learn a discount of that. You learn to discount that. You need colleagues who can actually tell from an ugly duckling from a baby swan. An ugly duckling from a baby swan. The people best able to do this are those working on similar projects on their own, which is why university departments and research labs work so well. You don't need institutions to collect colleagues. They naturally coalesce, given a chance. But it's very much worth accelerating this process by seeking out other people trying to do new things. Teachers are in effect of special case of colleagues. It's a teacher's jobs both to see the promise of early work and to encourage you to continue. But teachers who are good at this are unfortunately quite rare. So if you have opportunity to learn from one, take it. I'll be right back, okay? I wanna see you. Exactly. Spirit. I'm solving a little problem. Arthur Catcher. Nice, buddy. Mutapa. Alright, a poet, a famous poet has died. You might not know it, but yeah, he's in my language, Telugu. Anyway, these guys keep. He's on a streak reading my fucking tweets. People want. Thanks for waiting. For some, it might work to rely on sheer discipline, to tell yourself that you have to press on through the initial crab phase and not get discouraged. But like a lot of just tell yourself advice, this is harder than it sounds. And it gets still harder as you get older because your standards rise. And the old do have one compensative advantage though. They've been through this before. Competitive advantage, compensating advantage. It can help if you focus less on where you are and the more on rate of change. You won't worry so much but about doing bad work if you can see it's improving. Obviously, the faster it improves, the easier it is. So when you start something new, it's good if you can spend a lot of time on it. That's another advantage of being young. You tend to have bigger blocks of time. Oh my god. Thank you. Thank you for saying me this. I've always been thinking I have time as an advantage because I don't have money. Obviously. Anyways, another common trick is to start by considering new work to be different, less exacting type. To start a painting saying that it's just a sketch or a new piece of software saying it's just a quick hack, then you judge your initial results by lower standards. Once the project is rolling, you can sneakily convert it into something new. That's what I do actually. That's what I completely do. I started by saying that it's just a project and then I say it's a fucking startup. Alright, so next. This will be easier if you use a medium that lets you work fast and doesn't require too much commitment upfront. It's easier to convince yourself that just that something is just a sketch when you're drawing in a notebook rather than you're carving a stone. Plus, you get initial results faster. Initial results initial results faster. It will be easier if you try out a risky project, if you think of it as a way to learn and not just a way to make something. Oh my gosh, these are all the tricks I use. Then even if the project is truly a failure, you'll still have gained by it. If the problem is sharply enough defined, the failure itself is knowledge. And if the theorem you're trying to prove turns out to be false, or you use a structural member of certain size and it fails under stress, you learn something, even if it isn't what you wanted to learn. One motivation that works particularly well for me is curiosity. I like to try new things just to see how they'll turn out. We started Y Combinator in this period. It was one of the main things that kept me going while I was working on Bell. Having worked so long with various dialects of Lisp, I was very curious to see what its inherent shape was, what would end up with if you followed an axiomatic approach all the way. But it's a bit strange that you have to play mind games with yourself to avoid being discouraged by lame looking early efforts. The thing you're trying to trick yourself into believing is in fact the truth. A lame looking early version of an ambitious project truly is more valuable than it seems. So the ultimate solution may be to teach yourself that. A lame looking early version of an ambitious project truly is more valuable than it seems. So the ultimate solution may be to teach yourself that. One way to do it is to study the histories of people who've done great work. What were they thinking early on? What was the very first thing they did? It can sometimes be hard to get an accurate answer to this question because people are often embarrassed by their earliest work and make a little effort to publish it. They too misjudged it. Misjudged it. Fuck. Misjudged it. I need more tongue twisters. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if reading these things is going to improve my communication skills or is it just wasting my time. But at least I'm getting some engagement on Twitter and I'm learning something. But when you can get an accurate picture of the first steps someone made on the path to great work, they're often pretty feeble. So when you can get an accurate picture of first steps someone made on the path to great work? True. Perhaps if you study enough cases, you can teach yourself to be a better judge at early work. Then you will be immune to both other people's skepticism and your own fear of making something lame. You will see early work for what it is. Curiously enough, if the solution to a problem of judging early work too harshly is to realize that our attitudes towards it are themselves early work. Holding everything to the same standard is crude version 1. We are already evolving better customs and we can already see signs of how big the payoff will be. I don't know. I don't think that's something insightful. Matter of fact, I didn't get what I read. But anyways, we'll revise it anyway, so it won't be a problem. So early stage projects, let's start it from the start. So he's talking about why the early days of project is so depressing. Why do even people give up so easily on those things? Why do people get embarrassed on their starting initial works? because it's always lame, right? Crap. Early work is crap because there is not much effort put into it, obviously. But that shouldn't stop you because it's early work. You should not abandon the ideas and you should keep moving. That's what he's trying to say. And he has also explained about, what are the ways to avoid it, how to avoid it, and the reasons why it happens, and the reasons why you are embarrassed by your own work, and the reason why other people overlook your work, right? Or underestimate whatever you are doing, the ideas. But he also talks about Silicon Valley, where ideas are actually taken more optimistically rather than, underestimating them. They actually see the real value or respect them for what they are, right? Unlike the other countries or other places, they might not respect it. But the Silicon Valley culture has evolved to actually respect initial ideas, the crazy ideas, to encourage them rather than just saying it's bullshit and trying to look cool. That's what happens on Twitter every day from other countries like India. I've seen it so many times. Even one founder does the same thing to another founder, even though they both know what early work looks like or what crazy ideas look like, right? And it's the craziest things I've seen. Anyway, one of the biggest things of holding people back is fear of making something lame. And fear is not an irrational one. Many great projects go through this stage. Many great projects go through this stage early on when they are unaware. They don't seem very impressive even with their customers. You have to push to the stage and reach the great work that lies beyond. But most people don't. The most people who don't even reach the stage of making something they are embarrassed by, let alone continue to past it. They're too frightened to even start. This is such a good statement. I'll put it. Imagine if you could turn off the fear of making something lame. Imagine how would we do? Is there any hope of turning it off? I think so. I think the habits at work here are not really deeply rooted. Many new things is itself a new thing to us as a species. Okay, this is just human psychology. I have an experience with early projects, of ambitious projects, to know how to respond to them. We judge them as we could judge more finished work or less ambitious projects, and we don't realize they are a special case. Or at least most of us don't. One reason I'm confident we can do better is that it's already starting to happen. There are already few places moving in the future in this respect. Silicon Valley is one of them. An unknown person working in a strange sounding idea won't be automatically dismissed the way they would back home. In Silicon Valley, people have learned how dangerous that is. The right way to deal with new ideas is to treat them as a challenge to your imagination, not just to have lower standards, but to switch the polarity entirely from listing the reasons an idea won't work to trying to think of the ways that it could. Yes. That's what I do when I have people to actually react to new ideas from others or by yourself. Being a Y Combinator means being practically immersed in the strange sounding ideas. Okay, it stopped. Ayo, Emma, yo, okay, I shouldn't do that. Why am I singing? Okay, that's just shit. What is that? What is that? What the fuck is that? Anyways, of course, inexperience is not only the reason people are too harsh on early versions of ambitious project. They also do it to seem clever. To seem clever. In a field where new ideas are risky, like startups, those resistance are in fact more likely to be right, and just not when the predictions are weighted. Just not when the predictions are weighted by outcome. But there is another more sincere reason by trying to do this. Many of those around you will hope. I wouldn't claim that Silicon Valley would ever overcome this. For investors, it's saying this is insultive. Yes, particularly expensive. Explicit. Investors want you to succeed because they hope you will make them rich in the process. Investors. But many other people you meet can hope to benefit in the same way from your success. At the very least, they'll be able to say when you're famous that they've known you since the way back. But even if Silicon Valley's encouraging attitude is rooted in self-interest, it has over time actually grown into a sort of benevolence, encouraging startups has been practiced for so long that it has become a custom. Now it just seems that that's what one does with startups. Maybe Silicon Valley is too optimistic. Maybe it's too easily fooled by imposters. Many less optimistic journalists want to believe that. But the list of imposters they cite are suspiciously short and plagued with asterisks. If you use revenue as a test, Silicon Valley's optimism seems better than turned out than the rest of the world's. Because it works, it will spread. There's a lot of new ideas and startups, of course. Fear of making something lame holds people back in every field. But Silicon Valley shows how quickly the customers can evolve to support new ideas, and that in turn proves that dismissing new ideas is not so deeply rooted in human nature that it can be unlearned. Unfortunately, if you want to do new things, you'll face a force more powerful than other people's skepticism, your own skepticism. You too will judge your early work too harshly. How do you avoid that? This is a difficult problem because you don't want to completely eliminate your horror of making something lame. That's what steers you towards doing good work. You just want to turn it off temporarily, the way a painkiller temporarily turns off the pain. People have already discovered several techniques that work. This is important. People have already discovered several techniques that work. Hardy mentions that good work is not done by humble men. It is one of the first duties of a professional, for example, for needs help. If you overestimate the importance of what you're working on, that will compensate for mistakenly harsh judgment of your initial results. This is the first one. So just be overconfident, right? be overconfident, exaggerate the importance of what you're working on. The importance of what you overestimating importance will compensate for bad initial results. Bad initial results, because important keep trying and on improving rather than giving up, because it's too important to give up. Ignorance has a similar effect. Ignore the results. For some people, it might work to release. Will I unsure what to release? It can help if you focus less on where you are. Change. Where you are and more on rate of change. One motivation that works particularly well for me is curiosity. That is so cool. Where to? Maybe. Alright, I'll end it today. I'm so tired and I gotta work, I guess. Maybe I'll